There were 3 seconds before his fork reached his mouth. 3 seconds before a powerful man died. The Obsidian Lounge was built to erase people like me. Perfect lighting, quiet wealth. A waitress no one bothered to see. But I saw everything. I saw her poison the plate. I saw him lift the fork. If I spoke, I'd be dead. So I spilled the coffee. "I'm sorry," I said as it burned through his suit. And for once, I wasn't apologizing.
The porcelain shattered against the table edge, but the damage was already done. Dark, scalding liquid drenched the front of Kang Seung-Ho's charcoal suit, soaking instantly into the expensive fabric. Steam rose from his chest, curling into the air like a phantom, but he didn't flinch. He didn't yelp. He simply froze, his fork hovering halfway to his mouth, the bite he had been seconds away from taking now forgotten. The silence that fell over the Obsidian Lounge was absolute. It wasn't the quiet of a pause. It was the vacuum before an explosion. Seung-Ho lowered the fork. His movements were terrifyingly controlled, possessing the lethal grace of a tiger deciding exactly how to tear apart its prey. He stood up, towering over me. The heat from the coffee must have been burning his skin, but his eyes were glacial, stripping me bare, seeing not a clumsy waitress, but a threat. "You," he said, the word barely a whisper, yet it carried across the room. His hand moved inside his jacket, fast, too fast for me to run. By the time my breath hitched, the barrel of a matte black pistol was leveled at the center of my forehead. "Give me one reason why I shouldn't paint this wall with your brains," he growled, his finger tightening on the trigger. "The food," I choked out, my hands trembling as I pointed at the table. Don't eat it." He didn't look down. He didn't blink. Last chance. Desperation surged through me, sharper than the fear. I couldn't let him die, not after I just ruined my life to save him. I lunged past the gun, not at him, but at the table. I shoved the plate of galbi-jim hard. It crashed onto the polished parquet floor. Seung-Ho flinched, shifting his aim, ready to fire, but then the sound hit us. Hiss. It wasn't the sound of sauce settling. It was the angry sizzle of chemical reaction. Where the marinated meat and sauce touched the wood, the varnish bubbled and turned black, dissolving as if eaten by acid. An acrid chemical stench cut through the aroma of roasted garlic. Seung-Ho gaze snapped to the floor, then back to me, the realization dawning with horrifying clarity. The coldness in his eyes shifted, replaced by a storm of calculation. "Seung-Ho, darling, she's crazy!" Camilla shrieked from across the table, standing up, her napkin clutched to her chest. "Shoot her!" But he didn't shoot. He looked at Camilla, really looked at her, and saw the panic that didn't match the situation. "Get down," he commanded, his voice changing from executioner to soldier. "What?" I said, "Get down." He grabbed the back of my neck, forcing me toward the floor, just as the front window of the lounge exploded inward. Glass rained down like diamonds as automatic gunfire shredded the tranquility of the evening, tearing through the booth where we had been standing a heartbeat before. The world disintegrated into a deafening cacophony of shattering glass and screaming metal. Seung-Ho was a heavy weight over me, his body a living shield against the hail of bullets tearing the booth apart. I squeezed my eyes shut, waiting for the burning bite of a bullet, but he was already moving, transitioning from target to combatant with terrifying speed. He hauled me up, his grip on my bicep like an iron manacle that promised bruises by morning. "Move," he barked, not looking at me, his free hand raising his weapon to fire 2 controlled shots over the ruin of the booth. We surged toward the kitchen doors. My shoes skidded on the slick floor, the smell of chemical smoke and expensive cologne choking me. The kitchen, usually my sanctuary of order, was a bedlam of terrified staff and clattering pans. Seung-Ho didn't slow down for the chaos. He barreled through, knocking a frozen sous chef aside, dragging me past the stainless steel prep stations I had cleaned just hours ago. "Please," I gasped, stumbling as he shoved open the heavy steel rear exit. "Let me go. I didn't mean—" You want to stay and explain that to the hit squad? He growled, not breaking stride. The alley air hit my face, freezing and biting, a sharp contrast to the hell we had just exited. A convoy of matte black SUVs screeched to a halt at the mouth of the alley, tires smoking against the asphalt. The doors flew open before the wheels stopped rolling. Men in tactical gear poured out, their movements synchronized and lethal, forming a protective perimeter around us. I tried to twist away, panic finally overriding the shock. This wasn't an escape. This was an abduction. No, I'm not going with you. Seung-Ho didn't waste breath arguing. He scooped me up, tossing me into the back of the lead vehicle like I weighed nothing. He dove in after me, slamming the heavy, armored door just as a fresh volley of gunfire pinged harmlessly against the bulletproof glass. The lock engaged with a sickening thud. "Drive," he ordered. The SUV lurched forward, pinning me against the cold leather seats. My chest seized. I couldn't draw air. My lungs felt small, tight, useless. I clawed at the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. Kidnapped. The word flashed in my mind like a neon warning sign. I had saved a monster, and now the monster was taking me into the dark. "Breathe," Seung-Ho said, his voice devoid of sympathy. He was reloading his weapon, his movements precise, mechanical. "Pass out and you become dead weight. I don't carry dead weight." The city blurred past, a streak of lights I could no longer reach. Minutes later, the vehicle descended into the subterranean garage of a building that loomed over the skyline. We rose in a silent elevator that opened directly into a space that felt less like a home and more like a mausoleum. Floor-to-ceiling glass overlooked the city, framed by raw, unforgiving concrete and sharp angles. It was cold, sterile, and terrifyingly high up. Seung-Ho stepped out, holstering his weapon, and turned to face me. In this harsh light, the coffee stain on his chest looked like dried blood. "Welcome home," he said, the words sounding more like a prison sentence than a greeting. "Strip." The command was flat, devoid of any heat or desire. It was a security protocol. I backed away until my shoulder blades hit the cold glass of the window, the city lights dizzying behind me. "What? No, you can't just—" "I don't ask twice, Nyla." Seung-Ho closed the distance between us in 2 long strides. He didn't wait for my compliance. His hands were on me, not caressing, but searching. He spun me around, his grip bruising as he patted down my sides, checking for a holster, a knife, a wire. I gasped, trying to shove him away, but it was like trying to move a marble statue. "Get off me!" He ignored me, his fingers snagging at the knot of my white apron. He yanked it loose, pulling the garment from my waist. He didn't toss it aside. Instead, he ran his hands along the fabric, his touch methodical, hunting for something specific. His hand froze at the bottom hem. The temperature in the room plummeted. Seung-Ho looked up, his eyes no longer just cold, they were dead. "You're good," he whispered, a terrifying softness entering his voice. I almost believed the panic. "I don't know what you're talking about," I stammered, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. He ripped the seam of the apron open with a violent tear. A small black disc fell into his palm. It was smaller than a dime, blinking with a faint, rhythmic red light. A listening device. "Who do you work for?" he roared, the calm facade shattering. He slammed me back against the glass, his forearm pressing against my windpipe, cutting off my air. The muzzle of his gun pressed into my temple, hard enough to bruise bone. "The syndicate. Camilla? Or are you feds?" "No one," I wheezed, clawing at his arm. "I'm a waitress. I serve coffee." "Waitresses don't wear wires." He clicked the safety off. The sound was the loudest thing in the penthouse. "Give me a name, or I blow your head off right now and dump you off the balcony." "I didn't put it there." Tears blurred my vision, hot and stinging. "I swear I didn't know." "Liar." "My locker." The memory hit me with the force of a physical blow. This morning, when I got to work, my lock was cut. My uniform was on the floor. I looked at him, begging him to see the truth. I thought it was just...
I thought someone was playing a prank. I just put it on. I didn't check the hems. Seung-Ho's eyes narrowed, searching my face for the lie, but his finger didn't leave the trigger. The red light of the bug blinked between us, a silent accusation that I was no longer just a witness, but a weapon that had been aimed at his heart all along. I saw her! The words ripped out of my throat, raw and desperate. Camilla, she was in the kitchen before prep started. I heard her talking to the chef. I heard the plan. Seung-Ho didn't lower the weapon. The barrel remained pressed against my skin, a cold circle of judgment. And I know names. I know dates. I know exactly how they plan to dismantle your empire. I forced my chin up, staring into the abyss of his gaze, trying to summon a courage I didn't feel. You kill me, you're flying blind. You pull that trigger, and you lose the only advantage you have left. The silence stretched, thin and brittle. Slowly, agonizingly, he lowered the gun. But the danger didn't leave the room. It just changed shape. You think you have leverage, Nyla? He holstered the weapon with a smooth click that sounded final. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a sleek phone, tapping the screen before turning it toward me. The breath left my body in a rush. It was a live feed, grainy, low lights, but unmistakable. A boy in a faded hoodie bouncing a basketball on a cracked court under the hum of a flickering street lamp. Leo, I whispered, my knees buckling. I reached for the screen, but he pulled it back. Don't you touch him. Please, God, don't touch him. I'm not the one you need to worry about. Seung-Ho pocketed the phone, stepping closer until his heat radiated against my shivering skin. The listening device wasn't just recording me. It was tracking you. My enemies know who you are. They know where you live, and they know exactly where your little brother spends his Tuesday nights. I grabbed his lapels, bunching the ruined, coffee-stained fabric in my fists. He's innocent. He has nothing to do with this. In my world, innocence is just a weakness waiting to be exploited. He caught my wrists, removing my hands from his chest, but he didn't let go. His grip was a shackle, binding me to him. He will kill him to get to me, or they will kill him just to punish you for spilling that coffee. He's a loose end. What do you want? I sobbed, defeated. The fight drained out of me, replaced by a cold, hollow terror. I'll do anything. Seung-Ho leaned down, his face inches from mine. The scent of gunpowder and rain clung to him, intoxicating and terrifying. You want him to survive the week, then you stop being a waitress. You become my asset. He tightened his grip on my wrists, pulling me closer until our bodies nearly brushed. Be my eyes, Nyla. Be my witness. Give me everything you heard in that kitchen and help me destroy them. His gaze bored into mine, sealing my fate. Do that, and I keep him breathing. Friday, midnight, the private vault at the Vernet Gallery. The words tumbled out, jagged shards of information I had prayed I would never have to repeat. She's meeting the syndicate heads. She told the chef to have the champagne ready for a toast to the late Kang Seung-Ho and the new era. Seung-Ho didn't rage. He didn't throw furniture. He became terrifyingly still, absorbing the timeline of his own planned extinction. 3 days, he murmured, his voice a low rumble in the sterile quiet of the penthouse. She thinks she's claiming a crown. She's digging a grave. You can't go there, I argued, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to steady it. If you walk in there alone, I won't be alone. He turned to me, his dark eyes assessing me with a new critical weight. They expect a ghost. Instead, they're going to get a king, and every king needs a queen. My stomach dropped. No, absolutely not. I'm a waitress. I serve people like you. I don't sit at the table with them. You do now. He crossed the room, grabbing my chin and tilting my head up, forcing me to break the habit of looking down. His fingers were rough, calloused, but his touch was precise. If you walk into that room as Nyla Carter, the girl who apologizes for taking up space, they will eat you alive. And if you die, Leo dies. The mention of my brother sharpened my focus like a blade. So we kill the waitress. He pulled me toward a wall of mirrored closets. With a swipe of his hand, a panel slid back to reveal rows of suits and, inexplicably, women's couture, spoils of a life I couldn't comprehend. He pulled out a gown, heavy with beading and dark as dried blood. "Put it on," he commanded. "I don't know how to act like this," I whispered, clutching the fabric. It felt like armor disguised as silk. "It's not about acting, it's about projecting." He stepped behind me, his hands settling on my shoulders. He pressed down, forcing me to straighten my spine, to stand taller. "Shoulders back, chin up, stop looking for an exit. You are the exit." I stared at our reflection, the towering Mafia boss and the terrified woman in the ruined uniform. "Camilla is a viper," he whispered into my ear, his breath ghosting over my neck, sending a shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with fear. "To survive her, you have to be colder. You have to be the thing that nightmares are afraid of." He turned me around, his gaze stripping away the last of my defenses. "Convince me, Nyla. Convince me you're worth the risk." I swallowed the fear, visualizing Leo on that grainy basketball court feed. I tightened my grip on the dress until my knuckles turned white. "I'm not the risk. I'm the weapon." A corner of Seung-Ho's mouth ticked up, a dark, dangerous approval. "We'll see." The basement of the penthouse smelled of ozone and spent brass. The target at the end of the lane was a silhouette of a man, faceless and waiting. "Heavier than a coffee pot, isn't it?" Seung-Ho murmured, his voice vibrating against my spine. He stood directly behind me, his chest pressing into my back, enveloping me in a cage of heat and muscle. My hands shook as I gripped the Sig Sauer, the polymer grit biting into my palms. "I can't do this," I whispered, the weight of the weapon dragging my arms down. "You have to." His hands covered mine, large and rough, correcting my grip with maddening patience. He wasn't rough this time. He was precise. Elbows unlocked. Lean into it. You don't fight the recoil, Nyla. You ride it. He guided my aim. For a moment, our breathing synced, my terrified inhales matching his steady, rhythmic exhales. The line between teacher and captor blurred into something dangerously intimate. I pulled the trigger. The gun bucked, the sound deafening even through the ear protection, but his body absorbed the shock from me, keeping me upright. "Again," he ordered, and again, until the smell of gunpowder settled into my hair like perfume. Later, the gun was replaced by stilettos. "Stop walking like you're apologizing to the floor," he critiqued, watching me pace the length of the living room. "You're not rushing to table 4 with a refill. You are the reason everyone is in the room. Slow down." I stopped, frustrated, kicking off the heels. "I'm invisible, Seung-Ho. That's how I survived this long. That's my skill." "Invisibility won't save you tomorrow. Authority will." He walked over, picking up the shoes and setting them down in front of me. He didn't tower over me to intimidate. He knelt, his eyes level with my waist, before slowly standing to meet my gaze. The shift in power was palpable. He wasn't looking at a servant. He was looking at a partner. "Why do you trust me with this?" I asked, the question hanging heavy in the air. "I could turn the gun on you." "You could," he admitted, his eyes searching mine, dark and weary. He looked exhausted, the invincible facade cracking just enough to show the man beneath the monster. "But you won't, because we are the same. We are nothing alike. Aren't we?"
He stepped closer, tucking a loose strand of hair behind my ear, his fingers lingering on my jaw. We both carry the weight of people who depend on us. We both do terrible things to keep them safe. The only difference is, I stopped pretending I was good a long time ago. I looked at his hand on my face, then at the gun on the table. The fear was still there, but the trembling had stopped. "Show me how to reload," I said softly. Seung-Ho smiled, and for the first time, it reached his eyes. "Watch closely." The gown was a masterpiece of deception. Midnight blue silk cascaded to the floor, shimmering under the penthouse lights, but beneath the delicate fabric lay a bodice reinforced with ballistic weave. It was heavy, constricting, and undeniably beautiful. I stood before the mirror, tracing the unfamiliar curve of my own silhouette. The woman staring back wasn't Nyla, the waitress. She was a stranger, dangerous, expensive, and terrified. Seung-Ho stepped up behind me, his hand settling on my waist. He didn't offer compliments. Instead, he knelt, sliding the hem of the dress up my thigh. The air in the room grew thin. He wasn't touching me for pleasure. He was arming me. He secured the cold, compact pistol into the custom holster sewn into the lining of the skirt. "If anyone touches you," he said, his voice low and vibrating against my skin as he stood back up, "you don't ask for permission. You end them." "I understand," I whispered, though the weight of the gun against my leg felt heavier than the dress. The drive to the Vernet Gallery was a blur of neon lights and suffocating silence. The armored SUV felt like a cage moving through the arteries of the city. My hands resting in my lap were trembling again. I clasped them together, digging my nails into my palms to ground myself. I kept thinking about table 4, about spilled coffee, about the quiet, invisible life I had before I threw it all away for a stranger. We pulled up to the curb. The gallery was ablaze with light, a beacon for the city's most corrupt elite. Paparazzi flashes popped like distant gunfire. This was it, the lion's den. Panic clawed at my throat. I couldn't breathe. I turned to Seung-Ho, ready to tell him I couldn't do it, that I was just a girl who served drinks to pay her brother's tuition. He saw the fracture before I spoke. He reached across the console, his hand enveloping mine, his thumb brushing over my white-knuckled grip. "Look at me," he commanded, soft but absolute. I met his gaze. The glacial coldness was gone, replaced by a fierce intensity that anchored me to the seat. "In there they will see a queen, because that is what I see," he said. "Do not doubt yourself now." "I'm scared," I admitted, the confession small and fragile. "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." He squeezed my hand, a promise sealed in blood and intent. "Forget the uniform, Nyla. You are not just a waitress. You are the woman who saved my life when everyone else was bought and paid for. You are the only person in this room I trust." He released me, the warmth of his touch lingering like a brand. "Ready?" I took a sharp breath, letting the false persona settle over me like a second skin. I reached for the door handle, feeling the cold steel of the hidden gun against my thigh. "Ready." The heavy double doors of the Vernet Gallery groaned open, and the hum of conversation was severed as cleanly as a throat. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating, and absolute. We walked in arm. Seung-Ho looked immortal, a dark god returning from the underworld to judge the living. I walked beside him, my spine rigid, the ballistic silk of my gown rustling like a whisper of war. I didn't look at the floor. I looked straight ahead, channeling every ounce of the queen he had demanded I become. Camilla stood at the center of the room, holding court beneath a massive crystal chandelier. She was raising a flute of champagne, poised to toast her own ascension. When she saw us, her smile curdled. The glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor, a jagged echo of the coffee cup I'd broken 3 days ago. Her face drained of color, leaving her makeup stark and grotesque. She looked like she was seeing a ghost. Seung-Ho didn't stop. He marched us straight to the center of the room, parting the sea of stunned gangsters like the Red Sea. He plucked a fresh glass of champagne from the tray of a frozen server and held it up to the light. "Don't look so disappointed, Camilla."
Seung-Ho's voice projected effortlessly, smooth and lethal. I apologize for being late. I had a severe case of indigestion. A ripple of unease moved through the syndicate heads. Hands drifted toward the insides of suit jackets. The air grew thick with violence. To my loving fiancé, Seung-Ho continued, his smile terrifying. He turned to the gathered council, raising the glass. Who tried to serve me arsenic for dinner on Tuesday. A bold flavor choice, though I found the aftertaste a bit treacherous. The accusation landed like a grenade. He's lying, Camilla shrieked, her composure fracturing into hysteria. Kill him! He's mad! The only madness here is thinking you could take my crown, Seung-Ho roared, his demeanor shifting from mocking to murderous in a split second. He threw the champagne glass. It didn't hit the floor. It hit the face of a syndicate enforcer reaching for a weapon. Chaos erupted. The gallery turned into a slaughterhouse. Gunfire drowned out the screams of the elite. Seung-Ho shoved me violently behind a thick marble pillar, drawing his weapon and firing 2 shots that dropped the men closest to us. Stay down, he yelled, turning to engage 3 men rushing him from the left. But the crowd surged, a panic-stricken stampede of expensive suits and tearing fabric. The force of the mob tore me away from the pillar, pushing me deeper into the room, away from Seung-Ho's protection. I stumbled, my heels skidding on slick marble, and fell hard into a recessed alcove near the velvet-roped VIP lounge. I scrambled to get up, my hand reaching for the gun beneath my skirt, but a shadow blocked the light. I looked up to see Camilla. She wasn't holding a drink anymore. She was holding a silver-plated pistol, and she was pointing it directly at my heart. You, she hissed, her eyes wild with the fury of a woman who had lost everything. The clumsy little waitress. I should have gutted you in the kitchen when I had the chance. She cocked the hammer, her finger trembling on the trigger. Service is over.
The silver pistol in Camilla's hand was steady. But I wasn't the same woman who had trembled in the restaurant. I didn't freeze. I didn't beg. My eyes darted to the side, landing on a gold-rimmed service cart abandoned in the chaos. A heavy silver teapot sat atop a burner, steam curling lazily from its spout. Heat, my old enemy, my new weapon. Go to hell, Camilla spat, her finger tightening on the trigger. I've been there, I said. The service was terrible. I lunged, not for her, but for the cart. I grabbed the handle of the scalding pot, the metal searing my palm, and whipped it around in a violent arc. A stream of boiling Darjeeling slashed across the air, splashing directly into Camilla's face. Her scream was primal, a ragged sound of pure agony as the liquid blistered her skin and blinded her eyes. She fired blindly, the bullet shattering a mirror behind me, but I was already moving inside her guard. I didn't trip this time. I drove my shoulder into her chest with all the force Seung-Ho had taught me to harness. We crashed to the floor, a tangle of silk and fury. The impact knocked the wind out of her, sending her gun skittering across the marble. She clawed at my face, but I caught her wrist, twisting it until bones snapped. She howled, going limp with shock. I yanked the skirt of my gown up, ripping the Sig Sauer from the holster on my thigh. I leveled the barrel at her chest. Don't, she whimpered, clutching her burned face, tears streaming through the blisters. I'm sorry. Apology denied, I whispered. I brought the heavy butt of the pistol down on her temple. She collapsed, unconscious, the threat extinguished. I stood up, my chest heaving, the adrenaline singing in my veins. The room had fallen silence again. The gunfire had stopped. I looked up to find Seung-Ho standing amidst the wreckage of the gallery. The syndicate heads lay dead around him, a gruesome testament to his reclamation of the throne. He was covered in blood that wasn't his suit ruined, his knuckles raw, but his eyes were fixed solely on me. He stepped over a body, closing the distance between us. He looked at Camilla's unconscious form, then at the gun in my hand, and finally at my face. He didn't ask if I was okay. He knew. You're not shaking, he observed quietly, a dark pride burning in his gaze. I looked at my hands. They were steady as stone.
The tremor that had defined my life, the fear of being seen, of messing up, of taking up space, was gone, burned away by the heat of the moment. "I'm done shaking," I said, holstering the weapon, "and I'm done apologizing." Seung-Ho extended his hand, his palm bloody, offering me a choice one last time. I didn't hesitate. I placed my hand in his, letting his fingers lace through mine, binding us together in blood and survival. "Come, my queen," he said, leading me toward the exit. "We have an empire to run." We walked out of the gallery and into the night, leaving the wreckage of our old lives behind us, stepping into the darkness together.